Matt, when life gives you lemons, it's time to make ginger ale.
Join us tonight as we unleash 6 new transmutation spells to reimagine your world.
That's how we roll. 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 That's how we roll.
Welcome to the Goblin's Corner. My name is Eric.
And I'm Matt.
And tonight,
we're doing Twisted Transmutation spells.
That's right. A tongue twister in itself, I might add as well.
Apparently.
Tonight, we are continuing our ridiculous spells into our final school of magic for D&D, which is transmutation.
Indeed.
We've done everything else except transmutation. And by the way, this isn't the end of our spell list. Oh, no.
No.
We're just covering all of the schools.
Right. And then we'll probably theme them or just whatever hits our fancy.
Random spells up, as is our nature. Right. So before we get started, we've got 6 transmutation spells. And of course, we want to probably note what transmutation actually is as the school to dive in first. So Matt, what is a transmutation spell?
All right. Transmutation is the school of magic that consists of spells that change the physical properties of some creature, thing, or condition.
Okay.
It's things that make things other things.
Yes, it is. It changes something from one shape to another.
Right.
And I might note, if you were playing the older editions, this was called alteration.
Yes.
Alteration transmutation, and they actually distinguished between the two. But they don't in 5th edition, so there.
Right. It's just transmutation.
It's just transmutation.
Which makes sense.
So tonight we're going to give you 6 stupid spells. Not necessarily stupid, but definitely ridiculous in some ways.
Sure.
And you'll see why. And these are totally usable in your game tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like, you can watch this tonight, play your game tomorrow, and you'll have this. Thank us for it. Your players will probably love them as well, or hate you, depending upon whether you use them with or against them, right? Yeah, both. So remember, stupid spells exist because wizards are crazy.
And if you don't believe us, look at the owlbear.
The owlbear is a perfect example. Is it chicken? Is it bear?
Right. Is it poultry or red meat?
Or a delicious mix of both? We never know.
Both.
That is the universal thing. It's just like, do fairies really have tails? Who knows? Are owlbears owls or bears?
Yes.
Yes. That is the answer. So without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into Twisted Transmutation. And the first spell that we have is a first level spell. Matt, I believe it is Mass Scent. Why don't you give us a brief description of everything?
Certainly. It is verbal somatic material, and the material is a drop of perfume or musk.
That makes sense, depending upon what you're trying to mask.
Right. Casting time, range, and area. Casting time, 1 action. Range, self.
Mm-hmm.
And the duration is up to 8 hours.
So at 8 hours, it is what it is.
Right.
Okay. What's the description of Mass Scent?
The description is as follows. You alter your scent for the duration of the spell, masking or enhancing it as you desire.
Much like the name of the spell, Mass Scent.
Imagine that. You can make your smell appealing, neutral, or repulsive, potentially affecting creatures with a strong sense of smell.
Well, that makes sense, yeah.
Imagine that. Creatures with keen smell, like animals, may avoid or be attracted to you as appropriate. Bonus or negative to various skills as appropriate.
So if you make yourself repulsive, they get a penalty. If you make yourself attractive, you might have a bonus to like charisma checks or whatever.
Or if you're being tracked and you change it, I would say it gives you advantage to escape being tracked.
Ew, it's a skunk. Yeah.
Additionally, you can replicate any scent that you've smelled before and change your scent at any point in time during the duration.
Well, that's very handy. I could totally see this for a druid running through the forest, trying to mix up a scent and stuff like that. Or, as you mentioned before we started recording, a thief.
Yes, absolutely. Also, if you go to a perfumer, you can wear only the finest perfume if you so choose, if you're going to a fancy ball or what have you.
Oh, yes.
That 1,500 gold piece bottle of perfume. Yeah, I'm wearing that. Of course I am.
That dude smells nice. Yep. How did he afford all of this? Maybe he's a nobleman in disguise. Maybe it's Maybelline. Or maybe it's just Mass Scent, which is a first level spell that anybody can have.
Right. But who else? It's a very specific spell. It is very niche, but it has a lot of really cool applications.
And I would also say, because remember, you can mask it, right? Enhancing it or masking it.
Yeah.
So if you're a thief, you don't smell like anything.
Nope. Smell like Febreze.
Or you smell like dust.
Yeah.
Like an old book. Or anything that's not like the thief in question. Very useful in a medieval world where they may not wash very often.
Very true.
All right, so that's mass scent.
Up next, we have Magnetize Metal.
Yes, it is a second level spell, verbal, somatic, and material. The material component is a lodestone. I know it's shocking.
Because everything to do with magnetism is a lodestone?
Should have a lodestone, or iron fillings, or something, I don't know, magnetism related, right?
Sure.
Casting time, range, and so forth. 1 action, 60-foot area, 1 target.
Okay.
So you've got up to 60 feet to cast it, and any target within that 60-foot range. Duration is concentration up to 1 minute.
Tell us about the description of this spell.
All right.
What does it do?
You touch a metal object or creature wearing metal armor, for example, causing it to become magnetized. So I can touch an object, or I can touch a person wearing metal, or potentially an iron golem. Nearby objects within 20 feet, such as weapons and armor, or other things, which we'll get to, are drawn to it, imposing disadvantage on dexterity checks and disadvantage on stealth checks due to all of the clanging and banging as things slam into the other object.
Sure.
Additionally, the following applies. First off, if the target affected is less than 10 pounds, so if you magnetize something less than 10 pounds, it will fly to the nearest ferrous metallic object within 20 feet, potentially causing damage. And I'm just attributing falling damage, so 1d6 for 10 feet, right?
Right.
So if it's within 20 feet, maximum range, 2d6 points of damage. So if I have like a metal ball, for example,
Sure.
there it goes. If the target affected is over 10 pounds, like a suit of armor, for example, then any metallic objects less than 10 pounds will be drawn to it. Again, causing damage as respective to the distance traveled.
That sounds awful.
That sounds awesome.
And you can upcast this, correct?
Yes. Casting at higher levels causes a more violent reaction. For each level above second, increase the range of the spell and the magnetized area by 10 feet. So third level spell, add 10 feet to the range you can cast from farther away, and the area is expanded by 10 feet, so 30 foot instead of 20. Additionally, increase the weight of the objects affected by 10 pounds per spell level. So a third level spell can now affect a 20-pound object, causing it to fly across.
Sure.
At some level, someone is magnetizing that dude's suit of armor and he's flying to the nearest iron cage.
Well, yeah, but also at 9th level, you can glue an army together.
As a matter of fact, you potentially could. And how delightful and disastrous would that be?
Oh my gosh. Cast it on a group of charging knights.
Oh, and they all just slam together? Because at that
speed.
Yeah. And at that point, you're looking at a, what, 110 feet radius?
Yeah.
That's
off. You can stop a charge at that.
That's not good. And they're all squishing together?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it is a 9th level spell. It ought to stop a charge.
Mm-hmm. So that's Magnetize Metal. Delightful second level spell that can do horrendous damage. And by the way, and I have to note this, Matt had the perfect murder, death, kill for this spell in specific.
Well, yeah. It's how you make a shotgun in D&D. You just then, as you cast the spell
on the guy with armor.
Right. And then you just open a bag of caltrops.
Or ball bearings. Tossed a whole bag of them because each one of them will do falling damage on the guy.
Bing, 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 bing.
So yeah.
Bad times.
1d6 points of damage isn't really a big deal if you
until there's 1,000 of them.
Until there's 1,000 of them. That's right. Next up, we have Shape Wood, a third level transmutation spell. Why don't you tell us a bit about that spell?
All right. Now, first off, this is important to me because there's a Shape Stone spell.
There should be a Shape Wood.
There should be a Shape Wood spell.
I agree.
Especially for, I don't know, druids as an option.
It seems like a very useful spell to have. And a long time ago, there was a Warp Wood spell.
Right. There also used to be a Shape Wood spell.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
This is third level, 1 level below Shape Stone.
Mm-hmm.
It is verbal somatic material. The material is a flexible reed that you bend during casting.
Thematic.
Yes.
Delightful.
Casting time, range, and area. 1 action. The range is touch, and duration is instantaneous. You touch a wooden object of medium size or smaller, or a section of wood no more than 5 foot in any dimension, and form it into any shape that suits your purpose.
So if I find a door,
yeah,
you can shape it into a table or something like that.
Yep. So, for example, you could shape a log into a weapon.
Mm-hmm.
A useful item like sawhorses, a coffin.
Oh, a coffin would be good, yeah.
Instantaneous canoe.
Yeah. Could make a passage through a tree.
Yes. Or a wooden wall, a palisade, which obviously has tactical purposes, as long as the wall is less than 5 foot thick.
So anything less than 5 feet thick, you can shape it into something else.
Correct.
Okay.
You could also shape a wooden door or its frame to seal the door shut, right? Just like completely seal it.
Yep.
Or to shape it, obviously, out of the door hinges and
Pop it out of its frame.
Right. The object you can create can have up to 2 hinges and a latch, but finer mechanical detail is not possible. It's basically shaped stone, but for wood.
Yeah, pretty simple.
Yeah. But I felt like it was lacking in today's spell options, and so it needed to be added. It's not exactly whimsical like a lot of our spells normally are, but it just irritated me that it didn't exist.
But from a functional aspect, this is very useful, particularly, again, for druids, because druids already have plant growth.
Yes.
And I could see the options of, okay, I am a druid. Maybe I just want to cut down trees for a living, get into, like, I don't know, custom tables.
Canoe rentals.
Canoe rentals would be great. I grow a tree, cut the tree down, make a boat out of it, sell the boat.
Cut the tree down. That sounds like work. I just shape it.
Into the log.
Into the canoe.
Well, speaking of which, you have an addition to this spell, in fact.
Yeah. Shape wood can be used to shape living trees with no harm to the trees. It's like the upscaled version of druid craft there.
So you could have a living ship.
I suppose that's the case.
So hear me out. You grow a grove of trees. You weave them into a galleon.
If you use the right types of wood, that is theoretically plausible, yes.
I love this idea.
On the back of the ship,
Mhm.
all of the roots are braided together to make a bowl, and that's where all the refuse goes, all the compost from the food, everything.
Oh, yeah.
It's a self-fuel, you start off with like a caracal, and eventually it's a galleon because it just keeps growing.
Really thin wood could be sails.
Sure.
And, this is, in thematic perspectives, this would be how elves would make their cities.
Right.
They would grow the trees, and then they would shape them into the houses.
Absolutely.
Very delightful. Speaking of things which are delightful, we've got what, Matt?
Hey, the question of the week.
All right. Tell me about the question of the week. I'm assuming it's something transmutation related.
It is, in fact. I try to keep it on theme. Today, I made it sort of simple. If you could take a transmutation cantrip and bring it into the real world, which one would you take aside from prestidigitation?
Because why wouldn't you take prestidigitation amidst all of the other cantrips? It does everything.
It does, in fact.
And if you don't understand what we're talking about, go see Everyday Magic, which is a previous episode of ours, and we'll explain why prestidigitation is so awesome, in addition to some of the other cantrips, which are awesome.
Yes, several of which are transmutation cantrips.
As a matter of fact, yes. There's a lot of really good transmutation spells out there, and cantrips are really, really good.
Yeah.
Shape Water is great.
Yes.
Move Earth is great.
Yes.
I'm not taking either of those, but I think that they would be great.
Neither am I, but they are, in fact, amazing.
I'm going to pick two.
Okay.
The first one is pretty straightforward, mending.
Yep.
Because I have to fix all kinds of stuff in my house.
Right. You have children.
I have children.
And there you go.
They break everything. And so I would just be able to fix everything that's broken in my house. My house would be spotless and actually fixed.
You could patch roofs. You wouldn't have to pay a roofer. Oh my gosh.
That'd be wonderful. Now, the second, which is slightly more bizarre and much more amusing, comes out of Unearthed Arcana.
Okay.
And it is called On-Off.
Sure.
And if you don't know what that spell is, it literally just basically lets you turn devices on or off.
Yeah. In a 60-foot area.
Yes. At will.
Yes.
Can you imagine?
I can imagine turning into a criminal is what I can imagine.
I mean, amidst other things, yes, starting your car remotely.
Sure.
Opening the door. As you mentioned, mag locks don't work anymore.
Yep.
Or, you know what? That idiot that's trying to watch a game, turn off the TV.
So you're in a road rage incident. You just turn off the dude's car and keep driving.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Yes. Going back to a criminal, you're in a car chase.
Sure.
Cop car's behind you. No, not anymore.
No. Better come to a complete stop before you restart that car.
You could flip the switches on the street lights, maybe.
Yeah. All sorts of things.
All sorts of fun stuff.
Which is why I say it is perfect for a criminal and primarily a criminal.
I agree. What about you? What would be your go-to cantrip that's transmutation based?
So I'm all about using my cantrip to make money, much like on-off, but in a strictly legal sense, Druidcraft.
Druidcraft.
Druidcraft is the way to make money with a cantrip.
I have a feeling you are finding a saffron flower and growing a field of saffron.
Yes, I am.
Flooding the market with saffron.
6 seconds to pick saffron.
We should probably explain why you pick saffron and why Druidcraft, Matt.
Druidcraft allows you to cause one flower to bloom.
Every 6 seconds.
Right. Saffron is at its optimal picking time directly after it blooms because you don't lose any of the pollen, la-di-da. There are 3 stamen in each one of those flowers. It is literally worth more than gold. And if you can make those flowers at will, yes, you got to buy bulbs or what have you, this is amazing.
Got some initial investment going in, right?
Sure.
You're going to have to fork over a pretty penny for that. But after that...
The bulbs actually aren't that expensive.
Really?
In comparison. Yeah.
Okay. But still, not bad. Not a bad moneymaker.
No.
Legitimate, too.
Yes. And providing that day saffron to very high-end hotels, restaurants, things like that. Oh, that's just money in the bank.
Staples, the saffron man, comes rolling into town. Meanwhile, his buddy's turning on and off.
Absolutely.
Because that's how I roll.
Sure. Now, there are other things you could do with it. Sure. Like you could run an exotic florist. You could do all sorts of things. But saffron is the way to make immediate money.
That sounds great. Of course, we're always interested in your answer to the question of the week. And if you have one, hit us up at Goblin's Corner on all the various socials. And Matt, what can you do if you're watching our show?
You can comment down below. That is what the comment section is for. It helps us out. We really appreciate it. Plus, as I've stated over and over, I love to see what people's answer to these questions are.
We do. And we get back to you eventually when we actually check our comments. We check them a lot more than any of the other socials. At least I check all the comments.
It's true.
And by the way, next episode is our 200th episode, folks.
Yes.
We're going to do a rando roundtable. Going to be live, and I don't have to edit it, which is also really nice.
That's amazing.
We've got 3 more transmutation spells for you, and the next one up is a 3rd level transmutation spell that I have created.
Yes.
It is delightful.
It is the 1980s terror spell.
Yes, I would say that's pretty appropriate, Matt.
So tell us about Sandtrap.
Okay, Sandtrap is, as you mentioned, 3rd level.
Mm-hmm.
Verbal somatic material, a pinch of sand and a golf ball.
Sure. Okay.
You'll see why in a minute. The casting time, range, yada, 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 all that stuff. 1 action, 60-foot range, 20-foot radius.
Okay.
Concentration, up to a minute is the duration.
What is the description of Sandtrap?
You transform a 20-foot radius of ground within range into shifting, unstable sand that traps and pulls down anything that moves into it. It's a sand trap.
Sure.
Upon casting Sandtrap, the area becomes difficult terrain, and any creature that starts its turn in the area or enters it for the first time in a turn must make a strength saving throw, say 15 or whatever your score happens to be.
Right.
On a failed save, the creature sinks into the sand up to their knees, or whatever equivalent physical attribute they have.
Sure.
And it is mired in the Sandtrap, causing their speed to become 0 and giving them disadvantage on strength and dex saving throws because they're mired in a Sandtrap. Casting the area with natural sand, say like on a desert,
Right.
or I don't know, golf course with the Sandtrap,
Right.
causes the radius to increase to 30 feet instead of 20, and creatures take 1d4 bludgeoning damage each time they fail the saving throw as the sand grinds and compresses around them, turning them into sand, crushing them.
Sure.
While trapped, they can use their action to make another strength saving throw and free themselves. The sand continues to shift and trap creatures for the duration, and it reforms itself around any new creature that enters the area.
Makes sense.
Yeah, pretty straightforward, right?
Right.
It is a sand trap. It is a sand trap.
It's very shallow quicksand.
Yes, it is shifting, rolling quicksand,
Yes.
grinding its enemies into dust.
Good stuff.
Good stuff indeed.
What happens at higher levels?
If you cast it at a higher level, say 4th level or higher, the radius increases by 5 feet for every level above 3rd, and 10 feet per level if cast in an area of natural sand. So 5
Sure.
feet per level if you're just doing it on normal ground, 10 foot per level if you're doing it in the desert.
Makes sense.
There is a 10% chance each level above 3rd that a dire gopher is attracted to the sand trap magically,
Sure.
causing it to aggressively defend the trap and thus attack those unfortunates mired in the sand trap. I'm all right. Nobody worry about me. First off, I love the idea of a dire gopher.
Sure.
We'll come up with the stats with it on our site. And secondly, it should be, if you've created a Sandtrap, there should definitely be a dire gopher somewhere.
I think at the very least there's a gopher, and there's a 10% chance that it turns into a dire gopher and attempts to murder the people in the trap.
I love everything about that. Next up, we've got a 7th level spell, and Matt, this one is for you.
It is awful. It is a terrible idea. It is a terrible spell. I love it. It is Flesh to Glitter, and it is a 7th level transmutation spell.
I feel I heard every single DM in the world listening to our podcast inwardly sigh. Oh, God damn it. Give me all the stats on this.
All right. It is verbal somatic material. The material is, in fact, a pinch of glitter.
You got to have some to start some.
Right. Because it breeds.
Yes.
Casting time, range, etc. 1 action, 60 feet, and 1 target.
Okay, so it affects 1 target.
Yes. Duration, concentration, up to 1 minute.
And by the way, folks, for those playing the home game, it's basically Flesh to Stone, but with a little bit of a kick.
With a twist.
With a twist. Talk to me about this twist.
All right. You attempt to turn 1 creature within range into sparkling, brittle glitter. If the target's body is made of flesh,
like most creatures,
right, the creature must make a Constitution saving throw. On a successful save, the creature isn't affected. Good for you.
Doesn't turn to glitter.
On a failed save, its outer skin or shell, what have you, begins to harden into crumbling glitter with the following effects.
All right. What are we talking about here?
It is vulnerable to all damage except psychic and immune to radiant damage.
That makes sense. It reflects radiant light.
Right, because glitter is reflective.
So it's taking double damage from everything but radiant and psychic.
Yes.
Okay.
1d6 damage if the target moves during a round as bits of it begin to break and fall off.
It's turning into glitter.
Yeah, you can choose not to move. It's probably not a good idea in these circumstances, but you can choose not to.
Understandably so.
The victim sheds light in a 10-foot radius, making stealth impossible. You're basically turning into a giant disco ball early on.
First off, you cast this on the chul.
Sure.
Right? The chul comes out of the water.
Yeah.
It's got, if you guys don't know what a chul is, it looks like a lobster and an octopus had a baby.
Yeah.
Comes out, it's wiggling its,
little tentacles
little tentacle action at you, right? You cast it on the chul. Now it's a disco chul.
Yes.
That's going to be a thing. Disco chuls.
Absolutely.
And the whole cave now is just like having, you got some guitar music riffed in the background. There's some Bee Gees playing.
I don't think you should combine the phrase tentacle action and then break into 70s music into the same sentence, sir.
Yeah, that's probably not a wise decision of my phrasing there. We'll just bypass that. All right. What else is going on with this spell?
All right. A creature affected by Flesh to Glitter can make another Constitution saving throw at the end of each of its turns.
Much like Flesh to Stone. Yeah.
Sure. If it successfully saves against this spell 3 times, the spell ends.
Cool.
If it fails its save 3 times, or takes enough damage to kill it by the spell, it is turned completely into a pile of glitter.
A pile of glitter.
Yes.
Okay.
The successes and failures don't need to be consecutive. You keep track of them as you would, like death saving throws.
Sure,
right?
sure.
Until you collect 3. If you maintain your concentration on the spell for the entire possible duration, the creature is turned into a pile of glitter until the effect is removed.
So, just like Flesh to Stone, if you concentrate, you eventually turn to stone, or you turn to glitter in this case.
Keep in mind, returning flesh from a pile of glitter does not ensure that the body is in the same state.
Yes, because Flesh to Stone, it's roughly in the same state. It's a statue.
Right.
You turn it back to flesh, but if you break a piece off with Flesh to Stone, that piece is broken off as well.
Sure.
So if I turn you into a pile of glitter,
bad times.
Yeah. Right? You come back as a big pile of flesh.
There are creative ways that I would allow people to get around that, but I would require them to get around it.
That could be amusing. I could see having a box underneath and molding people into interesting shapes.
Sure.
Turning them back to flesh.
Absolutely.
I'm a terrible DM. This would be a great trap, by the way.
That's how you do plastic surgery in D&D.
Yes. Oh, very good. I like that. That's nice. Now, I understand you can upcast this as well at higher levels. Talk to me about that. 8th and 9th level spells. What happens when you cast it?
Upcasting this as an 8th or higher causes the glitter to be contagious.
Ooh.
and another touching the glitter must succeed the same Constitution save or be affected for the duration of the spell.
So, I upcast it. I'm an Archlich with maybe a little bit of a dramatic personality, right? I listen to fine music, and I like.
You're an Archlich bard.
I'm an Archlich bard. Yes, a dirge singer.
Yeah,
I'm a dirge singer lich, and I cast this, and you turn into a disco ball, right? You start flaking off, and your buddies come up, but I make it contagious, and as it flakes off, it gets a little bit on you. Oh no! Now,
or they reach out to heal you, which is mostly touch spells.
Yes.
Mhm.
Paladin comes up. Now he turns into a big ball of glitter. Too bad. So sad.
Gotta get him. Gotta get the Paladin.
Love it. And then I reform you into a shape of a box, and I store you as part of my wall. Living wall.
Or I just throw you around every time I'm going to entertain. That's where the glitter comes from.
That's where the entertainers come from.
Yep.
Yes, that's flesh to glitter.
Okay. Lastly, we have a nasty little piece of work.
A diabolical spell, I might add.
The name of it is Body Horror, Birth of the Hive Beast.
Yes, and it is a 9th level spell. This is our final spell in Twisted Transmutation, and I must say this is pretty twisted.
Indeed.
Not as, I don't know, maybe not as twisted as turning someone into a pile of glitter. But
No, I think it probably is.
Maybe so.
Tell us about it.
All right. So, as I mentioned, 9th level spell, verbal somatic material. The material component is a fingernail or piece of hair.
Just any.
Any. Yeah, it doesn't have to be theirs, just any. Casting time, range, area, and so forth. 1 action, 60 foot, 1 living target. 1 living target.
Yes.
Duration, 24 hours. It is a 24-hour transmutation spell.
Yep. And now here's where things get wonderful or awful, depending on whether or not you are the target of or the caster of the spell.
Here's the description. You target a creature within range using its body as the host for a dark parasite. See?
Delightful.
I know, it's great. The target must succeed in a Constitution save or double over in pain as small nodules erupt from their back.
Sure.
On a failed save, the target is restrained and takes 8d8 piercing damage as the nodules rip through their body like shrapnel and begin to merge and form a monstrous clone of the target. Literally, pieces of your body are ripping off you and forming a clone. The clone fully forms in that round and has the target's basic stats, abilities, and memories, as well as the additional ones below. First off, again, all the same stats as the original, but the clone has strength and con +4.
Okay.
Resistance against psychic damage.
Sure.
I mean, it is a hive beast.
Right.
Hive mind. The caster can telepathically communicate with the clone up to a range of 1 mile.
Like you do.
Like you do. Relentless focus. The clone has advantage on attack rolls, as well as strength and con saving throws. It's got beefed up con, beefed up strength. It's resistant to stuff, right?
Yep. Got to get where it's going.
Yeah.
And finally, the kicker.
Infectious nodules. Any creature struck by the clone's melee attacks must succeed on a con saving throw or be infected with tiny, dormant nodules.
Sure.
Over the next 24 hours, if the infected creature drops to 0 hit points, a new, weaker clone emerges which obeys the original clone. So at any time during the duration, my clone drops somebody down, they then form another clone.
Sure. That makes sense.
But it's a clone of the creature that was killed.
Right.
Treat this clone as with all of the abilities of the original creature, but the strength and con are -2 from the original. So I kill your buddy, it looks just like you, but with -2 strength and con.
Sure.
The caster can dismiss the hive beast at any time during the duration. Otherwise, the original hive beast lasts for up to 24 hours, as we mentioned, after which it disintegrates into a pile of ash, leaving no trace whatsoever. Any weaker clones also die at this point, turning to ash.
Right.
So I want you to imagine this. You're a lich. Maybe you have a flair for the dramatic.
Sure. Got
Party comes in.
The Bard Lich is a duo.
Yeah.
Okay. It's Sonny and Cher.
Look, it's 9th level spell, right? You're going to do some damage with this thing. The search party comes in and is looking at your tomb. You cast this spell, right?
Right.
You cast Body Horror, and you infect somebody, let's say the rogue. Rogue doubles over in pain. A clone forms of him, and he kills the rogue.
Right.
He goes off. Remember, he killed the rogue.
Right.
Which means he's been infected with tiny nodules, which forms a weaker version of the rogue.
Right.
He goes and kills the warrior that came in as well. Warrior comes in. Now the rogue and the warrior, and the rogue, which the third rogue, walk in. Maybe the first weaker clone hides
Right.
because, the Hive Beast is smart.
Right.
And so you just have the rogue and the warrior go in. And they're like, everything's clear, guys, come on in. And then 3 creatures jump the rest of the party. And now you have an entire party of clones for the next 24 hours.
And because they're smart, they murder the mage first because it's got the least hit points.
Yes.
And there's 3 of them. And it pops up.
Or the healer.
And
Matt, you had a great idea before we started recording as well.
Because I'm a terrible person, let's say this same party actually defeats the Lich.
Mm-hmm.
But the Lich gets away.
And we have an episode called The Bad Guy Gets Away.
Right. It goes to the party's hometown.
Okay.
And proceeds to unleash this on the hometown.
It goes to the town and unleash Birth of the Hive Beast on unsuspecting villagers?
Absolutely.
So I'm thinking it goes into the tavern, perhaps?
Sure. As a start.
As a start. Murders everybody in there.
Right.
Okay.
Eventually you turn the whole town into clones.
Yes.
The heroes arrive back in town to sell their loot and get a beer and all of this stuff. And the townsfolk are like, hey, how's it going? It's great to see you.
They're all sitting in the tavern. Everybody's chilling. Everything looks great. And then maybe the paladin goes in. I got to go take a leak. He goes into the stall. He sees the piled bodies in the second stall next to him. And he realizes the entire town is nothing but Birth of the Hive Beast. And that's when they all attack.
Sure. He comes out of the bathroom and the entire party is already embroiled and fighting the entire town.
Already dead and bodies under the table.
Sure.
And it's just him. What a way to end a campaign.
That would be fantastic.
So there you have it. 6 Twisted Transmutation spells for you to use in your next campaign. And I hope you enjoyed them because we had a lot of fun making them.
This is one of our favorite types of episodes to make, and there will be more in the future.
That's right. Any questions or comments, hit us up at Goblin's Corner on all the various socials. Did you enjoy this podcast? We're cooking up a few new ones. Subscribe to it on your favorite player, YouTube, and Twitch. And remember, this is our 199th episodes. Next week will be our 200th, and it'll be live.
Click the 5 stars and give us a review on iTunes and Podchaser. And on YouTube, hit the like and subscribe button. It helps get our show in front of more people. And it feeds the hungry algorithm.
He's currently creeping up in an undead state with a flair for the dramatic, slowly casting a spell, and you feel yourself becoming slightly brittle and highly reflective.
The glitter algorithm strikes again.
Yes, indeed. That's all the time we have for tonight. Once again, my name is Eric.
And I'm Matt.
We'll see you next time.
Have a good night, folks.
The Goblin's Corner has been written and produced by Eric Holden and Matt Staples.
Music by D20.
This is a Subterranean production.